Welcome to State Management in Function Components. After watching this video, you will be able to explain the concept of state management, explain the value of state management when developing function components, describe the syntax of the useState hook, manipulate a component state using the useState hook. In React, you will use states to manage data that can change over time within a component. A component state refers to the condition of that component at a specific time. The state of an object holds information that influences its behavior and renders it based on that information. Before the introduction of hooks, React could not manage the state of function components. Now, function components have local state management capabilities. You will see a demonstration of the useState hook function in this video. Hooks enable you to reuse code logic across components without changing component hierarchy or introducing unnecessary nesting. They also make it easier to share and compose functionality across different components. Let's look at a commonly used hook named useState. The useState hook allows you to add state management functionalities to function components. It returns a stateful value using one variable and a function to update the value of that variable. You can see the syntax here. You call the useState function and pass in the initial state as a parameter. Assign the return value to a const array variable. The array has two values, the state name and the state name prefixed with the keyword set. Let's take a closer look at each of these tokens. This syntax uses array destructuring for the const variable. Array destructuring allows you to extract values from an array and assign them to individual variables. Using this feature to assign variables with an array simplifies your code when accessing array elements by avoiding repetitive indexing. In this case, it extracts two values from the array returned by useState and assigns them to variables named stateName and setStateName, respectively. The stateName variable stores the current state value. This variable represents the current state of the component. You can access it and update it as needed. You can use the setStateName function provided by the useState hook to update the state value. When you call setStateName, React will re-render the component with the updated state value, triggering any necessary UI updates. You pass the initial state value into the useState function as a parameter. This value initializes the stateName variable when first rendering the component. Next, you will see this syntax demonstrated with an example. Let's look at the code used to develop a UI similar to what is shown here. Before the user selects the button, the interface displays, "The name is John." After the button selection, the interface will display, "The name is John Doe." You can use this component, state management, to manage and display the component state with the useState hook. The component imports the necessary dependencies from the React package, including React and the useState hook. Inside the component function, you declare a state variable name function, setName, to update the namestate variable using the useState hook. The code sets the initial value of the namestate variable to John. The useState hook returns an array with two elements, the current state value of the name variable and a function, setName, to update that state value. You use array destructuring syntax to assign these elements to variables. The component returns JSX elements encapsulated within a fragment. It includes an H1 element displaying the title, State Management using useState, and a paragraph element showing the current value of the namestate variable using JSX interpolation. Next, we take a closer look at the purpose of setState. Say you initialize the name value to John, as in the previous example, and now you want to update the user's name from John to John Doe when the user selects a button. In this code, we named the object setName. You should use the setState function for this. This code adds a button element to the JSX returned by the component. This button has an onClick event handler attached to it. When the user clicks the button, it calls the updated name function, which in turn calls the setName function embedded in the updated name function, with the argument John Doe. The setName function updates the namestate variable to John Doe. As a result, after pressing the button, the component re-renders and displays the name John Doe. After the button click, it becomes disabled with the help of the button-clicked useState variable. Let's examine another example where you define a component named ToggleMessage. You could use this component to show or hide a message. Inside the component, use the useState hook to declare a state variable named isVisible and initialize it to true. This variable represents the visibility state of the message. Define a function toggleVisibility that toggles the value of isVisible when the user clicks a button. It negates the current value of isVisible, thus toggling between true and false. The JSX code renders a div element containing an H2 heading, a button, and a paragraph. The button has an on-click event handler that calls the toggleVisibility function when clicked. The button text changes dynamically based on the value of isVisible. If isVisible is true, the button text displays hide message. Otherwise, it displays show message. The paragraph conditionally renders based on the value of isVisible. If isVisible is true, the UI shows the paragraph. This is a hidden message. When the value is false, it remains hidden. In this video, you learned state management allows you to manage data that can change over time within a component. The useState hook enables function components to manage the component state locally. You can use this syntax when using the useState hook. Call the useState function and pass in the initial state as a parameter. Assign the return value to a const array variable using a destructured array. The array has two values, the state name and the state name prefixed with the word set. You should use the useState hook when you need to make a component dynamic and interactive.